Erich von Manstein, the brain of the Wehrmacht. If the German generals were a clockwork mechanism, then Manstein would have been its most complex and precise gear. This man didn't think in lines on a map, but in entire operations. He was the one who came up with the famous sickle cut through the Ardennes in 1940, which defeated France in a month. Everyone thought the Ardennes were impassable. He saw it as an opportunity. His signature move, Crimea and Sevastopol in 1942. A mountain fortress, seemingly. He didn't attack head-on, but found a weak spot and struck from an unexpected direction from across the sea. A genius? Absolutely, but a genius in the service of tyranny. His tragedy was that even his cold intellect could not turn the tide of the war in the East. After the defeat at Kursk, he became a firefighter, just patching up holes. Hitler eventually dismissed him with the words, "Even Manstein doesn't win battles anymore." A cruel end for the best strategist. Heinz Guderian, the engine of Blitzkrieg. Imagine not just a general, but a fanatical innovator. Guderian was the prophet of the tank. In the 1930s, when many generals saw tanks only as infantry support, he shouted, "No, tanks are the steel fist." He created the doctrine, speed, concentration, a strike at a weak point, and unstoppable movement deep into enemy territory until all their communications collapsed. In 1941, his panzer group raced toward Moscow with such speed that the infantry and supply columns simply couldn't keep up. His personal style, he would fly in a light aircraft or ride in a command vehicle right up to the front lines, under fire to see everything with his own eyes. This brought incredible successes, but also led to disaster. His tanks, exhausted and without supply lines, froze in the December snow near Moscow. He was sent into retirement, but in 1943 he was brought back, not as a field commander, but as the chief tank repairman. And he did the impossible, keeping the panzer forces afloat until the very end. Erwin Rommel, the propaganda icon and master of improvisation. The most famous, almost romantic image. A general who fought chivalrously and led not by orders but by personal example. The Desert Fox. In Africa, with a bunch of old tanks and a constant shortage of fuel, he danced around superior British forces. His tactics, dummy fortifications, tanks hidden behind dune ridges, rapid raids. He could lose the battle for supplies but win an engagement through maneuver. But this was also his Achilles' heel. He was a tactical genius but a weak strategist and poor at intrigue. His fame irritated other generals, and when in 1944 he took command in Normandy, his genius collided with the absolute air superiority of the Allies and the complete decryption of German codes. His legendary intuition failed him. He was implicated in the plot against Hitler, and the Führer, valuing him, gave him a choice, a trial or poison. Rommel chose poison to save his family. Walter Model, Hitler's fireman and cynical realist. The complete opposite of Rommel. If Rommel was a knight, then Model was a tough, crude defense technician. He didn't hesitate to yell at Hitler over the phone, demanding the withdrawal of troops to save them from encirclement. And he got away with it because he was needed. His motto, "He who gives the orders also gives the orders to retreat." He masterfully pulled armies out of encirclements, built new defensive lines from nothing. Near Rzhev, he wore down Soviet troops in a bloody meat grinder. His crowning success, the defeat of the Allied airborne operation at Arnhem in 1944. He was absolutely loyal to Hitler and Nazi ideas, yet looked at reality soberly. When his army group in the Ruhr was surrounded in 1945, he told his officers, "Before, a field army had to fight to the last bullet. Now it's pointless." And he shot himself in the woods. Friedrich Paulus, the tragic pedant who broke the mold. A man of paradox, a brilliant staff officer, developer of Operation Barbarossa, but he had never even commanded a regiment before the war. He was entrusted with the elite 6th Army, and he methodically, by the book, led it into the Stalingrad cauldron. This was his tragedy. He was an indecisive commander who waited for orders from above when action was needed. Hitler forbade a breakout from the encirclement, ordering them to stand to the death. And Paulus, the model serviceman, obeyed, dooming hundreds of thousands to death and captivity. But it was he, upon surrendering, who did the unthinkable for a German general. In captivity, he became an anti-fascist. He called on German troops to surrender, testified at the Nuremberg trials. To some, a traitor to others, a man who found the courage to admit he had served a criminal regime.